Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, a real estate investment program. Listen and learn how to use real estate to build wealth and passive income streams for you and your family. We bring you experts every day to discuss and answer your questions on everything from single-family homes all the way up to 600-plus unit apartment complexes. And now, the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Good morning and welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited. And as always, we are working on your financial freedom. Wow, we're already in December, just a few weeks left in 2020. And I'll tell you, I bet there are a lot of people out there that would say that's a good thing. Hindsight is 2020, and we want that year in the rear view mirror, don't we? It's been rough. But I'll tell you, if nothing else, I hope you are seeing the end of the calendar year coming and using that to focus your energy on all the great things that you're going to do next year, 2021, right? I hope you're gearing up for 2021. You know, if you have not invested in rental real estate, right, that's what this show is about, is getting to our financial freedom, getting to our real estate retirement through rental real estate, right? Well, if you haven't started, I want you to start making plans to get that first rental house or get into that first apartment deal, perhaps as a passive investor in 2021. Start making plans, right? But here's the thing. I know many will not. What about you? Look, I think for a lot of folks, they don't understand the power. And I have to underscore that word, print it in bold, all capital letters, the power of real estate investing, the real power that it has to bring change, good change to your life, to improve your life, right? Why is it so powerful? We're going to talk about that very briefly to put everything we're going to talk about in the balance of the show into context. But ultimately, it has the power to retire you in 5 years or less. I just told you what we call that, real estate retired, right? We've built up enough passive income from our investments to meet or even exceed our expenses, or even the income from our job. Typically, income exceeds expenses, hopefully. A lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck right now, especially with the pandemic. But we want to build up that passive income so that we meet that or even exceed that. Then we are real estate retired, okay? So we're going to talk about the power of real estate investing. And then I want to follow up on last week's show. Okay. Now, let me give you the number here in the studio. This is a live show. You can call us today with any questions. The number is 855-497-4335. Again, that is 855-497-4335. Or send me an email to askandy@luinc.com. I do check those throughout the show, and I'll get your question on air if I can. That's askandy@luinc.com. Now, on last week's show, and by the way, if you ever miss a show, if you want to go back and hear that, maybe you caught the first half, didn't get to the second half, got the middle portion, but not the start or the finish, right? Go to lifestylesunlimited.com. We do archive the radio programs there. Just click on the radio button, click on podcast, and you can hear any of my past shows. Mike Harrison, Al Gordon, David Ruzicka, and of course, Del Walmsley does the Del Walmsley radio show during the week. And he's the guy you really want to listen to, right? 30 years of experience, just a tremendous guy with so much experience. But you can catch all of those on our website. Now, last week, right, we got into we touched on two things that are holding you back and dove into one of those. Now, the two things that are commonly holding people back are, number one, a what we call a scarcity mindset. And then number two, and this one can be a little bit more nebulous sometimes, it's fear, just simple fear. Now, the scarcity mindset, that's what we dove into last week. What that does is it limits your perspective. It limits your view of opportunities, your view of the future. It leaves you believing that the pie, let's just call it the pie, whether that's life, whether that's the real estate pie, is a fixed size. With the scarcity mindset, you think it's just a single size pie and there's just not enough to go around. And if that guy over there takes a bigger piece, you're going to get a smaller piece. Not enough time, not enough houses to buy, to do what we talk about on this show, right? Not enough money and so on. But it's not true. The pie can be grown. You can actually make the pie, bake a bigger pie. And we talked about that last week. So today, and last week we talked about 5 ways really to help you shift from that scarcity mindset to one of abundance. It's very, very important. You know, there's the tactical, there's the operational side of real estate investing, but a lot of it comes down to what is happening in your own head. Okay. So we talked about 5 ways to shift from that scarcity mindset to one of abundance last week. And today I want to pick up the other side of that, which is that fear component. And here too, I've got 5 things that you can do to help you overcome that dumb fear, for lack of a better term. Because again, it's often very nebulous. Sometimes you have concrete, mechanisms running through your head, but often it's just this kind of fuzzy thing. And we want to help you overcome that so it's not holding you back. But first, I want you to understand why the focus on real estate. What's so powerful about it, right? We talked about that you can build up enough passive income such that you're covering all of your expenses, right, with that income, whether that's your monthly mortgage or rent, if you're renting, your car payments, your student loan payments, your utilities, daycare, right? I've got a young child. Daycare is expensive. The food bill, pet care, so on, right? You're covering all of those expenses. Everything that's going out the door is coming in the door from that multifamily investment or those single family houses that you've invested in. You're retired at that point, right? You have the power to do that. You also have the power to, if you are exceeding, if you are not living paycheck to paycheck, you are living frugally, let's say, your income level might be even higher. You've got the power to match that and even exceed that, right? You've got the power to grow wealth, real wealth, generational wealth that you can then pass on to your kids, your grandkids, and so on. Remember, the value of most real estate doubles every 20 years. And I see members at Lifestyles Unlimited doing this all the time. They're doing it all the time by buying single-family houses. That's what I do. I'm a single-family investor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I got started with Lifestyles about 8 or 9 years ago. Retired my wife. We're now real estate retired, matched our income, matched our expenses, did everything we're talking about here with single-family. On the other side, I see a lot of people go the multifamily route, investing in apartments, right? They're not taking down a multi-million-dollar deal all by themselves. They're getting together with a group of like-minded people, pooling their resources and taking down that asset. Now, once we've taken down those assets, where's that power? How is it driving us towards that financial freedom? We're going to talk about that when we come back. You are listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb. Stay tuned.
We're back with the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. We're here to answer your questions and help you become financially free.
Welcome back to the show. You're listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm your host, Andy Webb. And today we're going to take you from hearing about the power of real estate, right, the rewards, to what a lot of you have going on in your head, which are these inherent risks, all these problems, all these fears that you see. And I want to talk about the reward side first, just to set the stage, to tell you what you're missing, right, if you don't get started. Now, if you do have questions today, give us a shout. The number's 855-497-4335, or send me an email to askandy@luinc.com. I was telling you ahead of the break, I see members getting to that real estate retirement very, very quickly at Lifestyles Unlimited. We say 5 years or less. I've seen people do it in 2, right? A lot depends on where you're starting from, capital, and so on. But you can do it. You absolutely can. And I want you to understand the power of real estate. Where does it derive that power to make us financially free, to grow that wealth, right? To replace our income, to cover our expenses? It's because with real estate, unlike your stock portfolio, your retirement account, your 401k, we make money 5 ways. 5 ways on single family. 6 if we're talking about apartments. With that 401k, you're just throwing money away every month into that black hole, with the promise that down the line you'll get it back. You'll be able to do those withdrawals, but you're essentially sitting and waiting for appreciation, aren't you? There's the occasional dividend that might get thrown off of the stock or two, but maximum 2 ways, 1.5. Right? But with our single family houses, and I've experienced this over the last 8 years since we started investing, right? They're throwing off monthly cash flow, right? We're collecting that rent, that gross rent. We're paying those expenses, and there's a net amount every month that's going into my pocket. $400 or $500, right? On one house here in Texas where I sit. Times 10. Now you're at $4,000, $5,000. Times 20, you're at $8,000, $10,000. Have you met your expenses? Have you replaced your income? Yes, you have. You are now real estate retired. Keep working if you love your job, but you can retire if you want. So that cash flow is hugely important. And we see that with apartments as well. Equity capture. Number 2, right? We buy right. We buy right. We're targeting assets that maybe are distressed or sellers that are distressed. Because of that distressed situation, they're selling at a discount. They need to move fast, right? We saw a lot of this early in the pandemic when apartment owners wanted to get out. They didn't know what was going on. Buyers were rare. I saw a case study just the other day at Lifestyles from an apartment investor that got an amazing deal. Was able to negotiate a tremendous discount due to the pandemic. Went ahead and pulled the trigger, did it. Bought right and captured equity just out the door, 25% discount on that thing. Equity capture. Now, once we've got the asset, single-family houses, let's think about that. I've got a mortgage. I put a 30-year on those, and every month that my resident is paying my rent, portion of that is going to the mortgage, some to interest, big chunk to interest, which I expense, and then to the principal payment. So that equity buildup through the payment of my mortgage every month that my resident is making, right, I start to grow wealth. Sometimes 8% return on that, based on my personal calculations so far, 8 to 10%. And of course, I mentioned the appreciation, right? Real estate doubles in value roughly every 20 years. So we see that growth. That's your stock portfolio. You're waiting for that appreciation to happen. We don't wait for appreciation. We don't even factor that in. We make sure we have a cash flowing asset. We make sure that we're buying right and we have that equity buffer built in from the get-go. And we know that we're going to get that buildup over time, but appreciation, it's kind of the icing on the cake. And we've seen a ton of it. Absolutely seen a ton of it over the last decade. And it keeps going. The market is hot. Prices are going up despite the pandemic, and we're going to continue to see that appreciation. So that is on top. Now, if you're in multifamily, you're not going to see this in single family, what I'm about to tell you about, but in multifamily, we can go in and take that asset and make some small improvements to cash flow because multifamily is valued on cash flow. Single family is valued based on sales around it, comparable sales. We have no impact there, right? Unless I own all the houses on the block and I start selling them and pushing up the prices, right? We have no real impact. But with multifamily, we can go in and reduce those expenses, increase that rent, add a pet rent, right? Put in a utility, washer, dryer, start charging rent for that, or laundry, right? We push up those revenues, our cash flow goes up, and the valuation of our apartment is forced up, essentially. That is forced appreciation. Can't do that anywhere else. Can't do that with your 401k. And it is tremendous for that wealth building. And finally, there are tax advantages, right? Tax code favors us as real estate investors in a number of ways. We won't get into those today, but that's the power right there. Those 5 to 6 ways, that is the power behind real estate investing. Important, of course, is the cash flow because that is what's going to retire you. And those other items are going to help as well because over time you build up that equity, you do a cash out refi, invest in more assets, create more cash flow, or maybe sell them, do a 1031 exchange, take advantage of those tax codes. 1031 exchange allows you to sell that asset without paying taxes on the capital gains and roll those gains into the next investment, right? We've got a lot of shows, by the way, if you go check out the podcast on lifestylesunlimited.com where we get into that 1031 exchange. I didn't know what it was when I joined 8-9 years ago. And in fact, the case study I saw the other night, the single family investor just did one of these exchanges to get out of a house and into a fourplex. Hadn't heard of that either, right? We're going to talk about the education because that's important. That's going to open your eyes, but that's also going to allay a lot of the fears that you have. And here's the thing. I mean, real estate has such power to create passive income and grow wealth. I mean, real power to benefit you in your life, right? You hear that part of the message from us here on the radio repeatedly, but you still won't jump in. Why is that? It's fear. Most commonly, it's fear, right? You've got that scarcity mindset as well. We did the show last week on that. You can check that out on the archives at lifestylesunlimited.com. And again, that's where you just say, well, there's just not enough there, not enough time, not enough money, not enough houses. There's just not enough. We want you to shift into an abundance mindset where you do see there is opportunity. There are ways to get to that money, to get that investment going. The pie is bigger and it's getting bigger, and I can make it even bigger. But then the fear comes into play. Fear, also known as worry or anxiety, right? What you're doing is you've got your dusty little crystal ball out in front of you, and you're looking into the future, and you're making assumptions about the future that are just simply wrong, right? Above all, you're looking at the downside only, right? You're not seeing the upside. That ties as well, right, into that abundance mindset, a little bit of positivity, optimism, that sort of thing. But that fear, it stops you from getting started. And I identify with that because 8-9 years ago, my wife, we joined Lifestyles in March of 2012, okay? And it took us a good half a year after becoming members to finally buy that first house because we confronted this very thing called fear. But we slowly chipped away at it. And bought that first house, August of 2012. Not a month later, we were contracted on the next one. It's amazing. Once you pull the trigger and get going, you can really get going fast. But I understand those hurdles in your mind, those barriers they're real, in your mind, and that can really hold you back. The common tenants, taxes, toilets, you're essentially afraid of people. You're afraid of that money question. You're afraid of how will I deal with the repairs, right? So last week we looked at 5 ways to conquer that scarcity mindset and shift to abundance. Today we're going to look at 5 ways to beat that fear so you can get that first investment done in 2021. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Now, let's get back to your map to financial freedom.
Welcome back to the show. This is Andy Webb, and we are going to address that fear that is holding you back from becoming a real estate investor, from experiencing the power of real estate investing. We just talked about that in the prior segment. Hey, and if you miss any of the segments and you want to tune in, catch those after the show, go to lifestylesunlimited.com and click on the radio tab. We have everything archived out there. We've also got a YouTube channel. You can seek that out. Also on a number of social media platforms. And hey, if you've got any questions today, the number here is 855-497-4335, or send me an email to askandy@luinc.com. And I was just perusing the education portal here on the Lifestyles Unlimited hub. I've logged in and I was just checking that out just to refresh my memory here, because when we talk through ways to fight fear, we're gonna hit on 5 of these, but I think the first one is probably the biggest one. And it's the one you can start with right now, especially in advance of 2021. Look, the pandemic's rearing its ugly head again, right? California's just gone on full lockdown. We're seeing that happen in different locations. So guess what? It's a good time to do this online education, I'll tell you that. But with education, you're going to fight fear. That's the bottom line. Knowledge is power. And that knowledge is what's going to take you to that first, and then that second, and then that third and fourth and fifth real estate investment, where you'll feel the power of residential real estate investing that we talked about, right? That education is going to build your confidence. It's going to allay those fears. And here's the thing, right now, you make a lot of assumptions, right? Maybe you've heard something from that uncle that gave it a go, didn't do so well. Now he just laments and tells you his war stories. Or you've read stuff online. I read a lot of articles online about real estate investing. That's what I talk about on air. So I'm always interested to see what's out there. And there's a lot of cautions and you could have these problems and negative this and negative that, and scarcity mindset because the pie is just too darn small, right? You're thinking to yourself, it's just going to take a tremendous amount of cash that I just don't have, right? That's a fear. I don't have the capital. I won't be able to cover my costs and so on. I won't have time, right, to fix up the house, let alone the knowledge. Well, education can resolve that. But how do I deal with a busted foundation, an old electrical panel? I'm sure that's expensive, right? And then those tenants, I get them in there and they're going to tear the place up and call me in the middle of the night when the toilet's clogged, right? That's that tenants, toilets. What's the last one? Taxes, right? The taxes are going to eat me alive, right? You make all these assumptions out of fear. But are they founded or are they unfounded? Do you know? With proper education, you can begin to break these apart and address your assumptions, break those fears down. Right? With proper education, you can become a truly savvy real estate investor, and it can happen a lot quicker than you think. For example, you may have heard about hard money, very important tool for the way that we buy, not exclusively, but a lot of the time at Lifestyles Unlimited. Right? We use that to buy properties that need work, right? But it often comes at a very high interest rate, 12%. I mean, I paid 14% per annum. Now, I'm not sitting in these loans for a full year, of course. I'm in and out as quickly as I can. But did you know that with the model we use, buying with hard money, fixing the house up, and then refinancing into a 30-year fixed rate, very inexpensive interest rate mortgage, under 3% now? Is that possible? On a rental? Yeah, it is. With the model we use with hard money, despite a double close, and despite those high rates that I just mentioned, we actually have less money into the deal than if we had bought the house in a conventional way, using conventional financing. In fact, the house might have been in bad enough shape we couldn't buy it with conventional financing, right? But the point is, you're going to have less money into the deal. So that fear that you had about it taking a tremendous amount of cash, by being properly educated, by understanding the model, by understanding how hard money works, that scary hard money, you become a little more savvy, a little more financially savvy as relates to real estate investing, right? Tenants, another common fear. Again, with proper education. And tenants, by the way, that just say that word, and a lot of people, whoa, they shy away from the microphone. They step back. Scary, right? What is that? What is the fear there? It's nebulous again. Maybe there's some concrete thing. You picture some guy punching a hole in your sheetrock. I've never had that happen, But here's the thing: with proper education here too, you're going to learn how to identify the good. I'm going to just call them good tenants, and the bad tenants, the ones that are going to punch a hole in your wall potentially. Right? You learn how to screen. That's the point. You learn how to screen properly before leasing your house. You vet those applicants thoroughly. We go into that. And you become educated on the process. It's a process, right? And with that education, you allay that fear. You learn what questions you can and cannot ask. For example, fair housing, the Fair Housing Act, and emotional support animals. That's a hot button topic lately. Well, what can I do? What can I say? Can I ask about your disability or not? Right? You need to become educated so you know what's okay to talk about. It's very easy, though. We have courses on that, in fact. You learn how to manage those tenants, right? It's your house. You put the lease together. It's your lease. It's a contract. And it just simply comes down to applying the rules in a consistent manner, right? The lease is the rules. You learn how to deal with those repair requests. It ain't by telephone, and it ain't at midnight. Taxes, tenants, and toilets. People think it's happening at midnight all the time. I have never had that happen because our lease states very clearly, all maintenance requests are to be in writing. Email's fine. Do I have to check my email at midnight? I absolutely do not. I can tell you that. Do I turn my phone to silent at midnight before I go to bed? I absolutely do. Do I observe weekends? I absolutely do. If I get a maintenance request today, I will be reviewing that on Monday, unless it's an emergency, of course. We'll deal with that. But point is, you learn how to manage your property. You learn how to manage those residents. Those property taxes, right? Let's stick with the 3 T's. Tenants, taxes, and toilets. Did you know those don't have to eat you alive? We have a class on our education portal, as well as just looking at here on the education portal, about protesting your property taxes. To keep the valuation low, does not affect your resale, by the way. And by virtue of that, keep your tax bill lower. So speaking of the portal, so I was just looking at this, and for the Financial Freedom Program, boy, we've got what's called a core curriculum here. It's 18 classes. 18 classes. So it talks about, for example, what to do after the storm, right? What happens if a storm blows through? We get tornadoes from time to time. If you're listening in Houston, right, you get the high water, you get the hurricanes. right? What do? Protesting, number 9 here, protesting your property taxes right there. How to pick a professional in any trade. Well, we'll talk about the professionals here in just a minute. So a number of classes to help you become educated in the core curriculum. But then on top of that, I was looking here, there are a number of electives around financing, insurance, rehab, as in renovation, rehabbing the house, ongoing operations, vendor discount programs. Yes, we have those. Case studies, pandemic updates. So a lot of stuff to help you become educated is the point. And to do it online. This is an online portal that I'm looking at. So you can do that from the comfort of your home. And that's probably the biggest thing you can do is start to work on that education. Now, how do you do that? I want you to check out financialfreedomlivestream.com. That's going to take you to a website where you can become a Financial Freedom Program member. You can read about the benefits there, but it's a 2-year membership and it's massively discounted right now. If you join or if you register there, use the promo code SAVEBIG, all capitalized, all written together, and you're going to get a 2-year membership for just $297. That's huge. When I joined 8-9 years ago, it was $500 for 1 year, and it was a great decision. So we're talking peanuts here, relatively. But a huge core curriculum, and then any number of electives to start chipping away at that fear. That's what I'm talking about here, right? Getting educated. That's number 1. Number 2, you're going to fight fear by having a good mentor on your side, by your side, right? Experience is a great teacher, but rather than having to learn the hard way, the school of hard knocks, leverage somebody else's experience. That is the mentor. Lifestyles Unlimited is an education, we talked about that, and mentoring group. Those are the 2 components that we bring to help you become a real estate investor. Now, when we come back, I want to talk more about the mentor. I want to talk about that vendor hub and building your team, so stay tuned.
One of the things I'd like to get across is that your whole life you wanted to make a change, right? But you've never had the time? This might be it, because we have online education that you can get involved in.
We're now going to bring the free workshop to the entire country and really the world. Anybody who is interested can participate in that. We're going to live stream that free workshop and have people online with you on the live stream, talking with you, answering questions, interacting. You're really going to get a great feel for the Lifestyles community from this. And you can register for that. So if you want to find out about us, this is a great way to take a look at us and what we do.
Lifestyles Unlimited has been helping people succeed since 1990. Join us for our free online real estate workshop and learn the 7 principles we teach to run our businesses and provide for our families. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com. That's lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Warning. Listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. We will teach you how to create wealth and passive income so you can be financially free. And now, back to your host.
Welcome back to the show. This is Andy Webb, and today we're taking a look at fear. Fear is a common hurdle to people that are thinking about getting started as real estate investors. Scarcity Mindset is one of those. We talked about that last week. Fear is the other. They overlap a little bit, right? One might influence the other. They kind of go hand in hand. But we want to help you overcome fear. And in the prior segment, we talked about education. I think that is a huge component. As you gain knowledge, as you better understand the process of real estate investing, right? We start to address those, what may be for you right now, variables or big questions, things you just don't know about or understand. You make assumptions, and we want to start to tear those down, and we do that through proper education. I told you that on our online portal, education portal, we've got a tremendous amount of education, a core curriculum as well as electives. I mean, you can spend a very long time going through all of this material, which, guess what? Hey, with the pandemic, we got a lot more time at home, don't we? So it's a good time to start on that education. So that's number 1. 5 ways that you can really help yourself fight that fear. Number 2 is finding a good mentor. And I mean a good mentor, somebody that's been there, done that, and has a track record of success. Now, if I think back to, you think back to when you were 15 or 16 and learning how to drive, did you ask your friends how to show you how to learn how to drive that stick shift? No, of course not. I mean, if I think back to learning with my buddy Denny that drove his pickup truck into a tree, probably not the best guy to learn from, right? For me, that mentor was my dad. You know, many years older than me. I can remember his Volkswagen Jetta. This thing was a diesel. It was loud. It had an 8-track cassette player, and it was standard transmission stick. You may not know what that is if you're young enough, but they're less and less common these days, the dreaded standard. But I learned from somebody that knew what they were doing, obviously. Not my buddy that drove his truck into a tree. You know. So when it comes to real estate, same idea. And be very, very careful. There are a lot of so-called gurus out there. You know, you'll see them on social media, Facebook, that sort of place. You know, maybe they've been in the business a year, or maybe 2. Maybe they've done 1 or 2, a few transactions. Yeah, I mean, in the recent market, it's been very easy to make money. Let's be honest. And now they're out there touting themselves as gurus. They want to be your mentor. They don't know what they're doing. 1 year, 2 years, just not enough. Now, Del Walmsley, by comparison, he founded Lifestyles Unlimited. He began investing over 30 years ago. Founded Lifestyles in 1990, 30 years ago. This is our 30th year, right? He's made money in up markets, like we've been seeing, and he's made money in down markets. He's been through the cycles. Not just 1 year, not just 2 years of investing, but the full cycle. He tripled his net worth in 2008, from about 2008 to 09-10, during the last downturn. Tripled his net worth. He was already a millionaire, multimillionaire at that time, so imagine what that means. That is experience that you want to learn from. That is the mentor, right? Lori, she's one of our mentors here in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, where I sit. You know, she was part of the Lifestyles team when I was a newbie, a greenhorn back, 8-9 years ago. She's got a ton of experience, right? This is somebody that you go to when you start to get nervous, right? You get the jitters. Maybe you're under contract. You're starting to get cold feet, starting to get scared, starting to make assumptions, right? You reach out to her. She's going to hold your hand. She's going to answer those questions. She's going to get you to the finish line. She's going to keep you focused, right, on the longer term goals that you've set, your why. Saw a case study. She was actually one of the hosts at the Thursday case study, brought on a great family for a single family. She's one of our single family mentors. Tremendous story. Amazing stuff. So a mentor is the second thing you can do to help yourself address those fears that are holding you back. Education, find a good mentor. And then number 3, fight fear with a good team. Now, of course, a mentor is on your team, right? They're obviously part of that. But I'm talking bigger picture, everybody that you want to have around you to manage the full real estate process from start to finish, identifying a property, vetting that property, getting that property under contract, closing, getting the financing done, getting the renovations done, refinancing, getting a resident in there, managing that resident from start to finish, right? The full life cycle, eventually disposing of that asset, doing that 1031 exchange that we mentioned earlier, right? You want to find people to be part of your team. You want to leverage other people's money, right, for that financing, right? Your lender is your partner. They're an extra set of eyes. And when you have them standing behind you, looking at that deal with you, that's going to help allay some of that fear. They have, essentially, just like you, they've got skin in the game. They are not in the business, whether you think this or not, they are not in the business of taking back property. Hard money lenders, they do not want your house back. They are in the business of lending, right? And this is true of hard money as well as conventional lenders, right? They're a teammate. You want to use other people's money. Build that team. Other people's knowledge, right? Maybe you don't know the first thing about construction. I certainly did not when we started, renovations, rehab, how to hang new cabinets. I don't know. How to lay tile? I don't know. What color should I have? I don't know. How do you take out a load-bearing wall? We've done that. Not me personally. Right, we're using other people's knowledge here. We have a great general contractor, over 20 years in the business. A lot of experience there. Essentially a mentor on the construction side, right? Electricians, HVAC crew, plumber, insurance team. All of these folks bring knowledge to the table. And again, just like that education, that knowledge will help you allay those fears. When you have questions, you go to them. You go to your mentor. And of course, other people's time. That's a common problem from the scarcity mindset perspective. There's just not enough time. Well, you leverage other people's time. You're concerned. You have the fear that you won't be able to deal with managing that property. Leverage other people's time. Get a property manager. right? Time is a big one. It is a huge one for a lot of people because you're working so much, 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week. And that is why we want to leverage the power of real estate investing to get you out of that killer schedule so you have more time. So we're going to leverage other people's time at the start for sure. And of course, that goes back to that great general contractor and all of the other construction crews that I mentioned, all the other vendors. And just finding a property to buy just got a heck of a lot easier when you leverage other people's time. I'm just talking about a realtor. Get a good realtor or multiple on your team, and we have a course on that. There's a property locating class as part of the financial freedom curriculum. By the way, and I'm talking about building your team here. As financial freedom program members, you also, aside from the education component, we've got a vendor hub out there. That's first place I go. Anytime I need a contractor for something new, maybe something I haven't done before, I'm going to go there. I'm going to see who's on the hub. We get good deals. We send so much business their way. It's essentially a volume thing there. We're going to get a good price. We're going to get people that understand our model, so I don't have to then in turn educate them because they know. They've been around, right? They understand what we're doing when we follow that lifestyles model of best product, best price, fully renovating the house, right? You got very experienced people out there on that vendor hub to help you build that team, and you have access to that as part of the Financial Freedom Program membership. So fighting fear through a good team is essential. Number 4, you want to fight fear, or you're going to be able to fight fear better through your network. And here I mean your peers. Just being in touch with other investors, surrounding yourself with like-minded people. When we go to the case studies in person, it's been a while, I see people there that are totally brand new. They're not shy. Some are. Go talk to them if you see them being shy and hanging back, but you bring them forward. You have experience. You help them, right? And we see people that are well ahead of us. We go and talk to them, and they carry us. They pull us forward as well. They give us encouragement. They have that abundance mentality that we talked about last week, but we hear what they're up to. We hear what they've done. We leverage their experience, which again is another form of education. Again, the case studies are great for this. Now, we're doing those live online right now, and I mentioned just a second ago, I went to one just on Thursday, a couple days ago. Lori was our single-family mentor. This was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Great case study. Got to see what the folks are up to. Got to hear about their perspective, right? That's all eye-opening. It broadens your horizons, makes it easier for you. And finally, you're going to fight fear ultimately through experience. Number 1, we said education. I think that's huge. Number 2, finding a good mentor. Number 3, getting a great team around you, right? Those contractors, those agents, that insurance broker. Getting that network built, those peers, those like-minded people that are doing what you want to do, rubbing off on you. But ultimately experience. The more you do it, the easier it will get. That's a promise. I mean, for me, it's gotten easier and easier over the years. I don't have to think about this stuff twice when a deal comes across my desk. The more you do it, the easier it's going to get. But to that point, you have to get started. Translates into education, right? Again, experience. I'm not talking about, in this case, the proverbial school of hard knocks. Thanks to your underlying education that you get at an organization like Lifestyles and the mentors and your team and your peers, it's going to go a lot smoother for you. So look, it's a great time to start working on that education. I want you to go check out financialfreedomlivestream.com, financialfreedomlivestream.com to learn about that financial freedom program, the education, the vendors, and so on. 2-year membership, heavily discounted. Use the promo code SAVEBIG, written together, Save Big. Yeah, thank you for listening today. You're listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb. And look, 1 month to go. Let's gear up. Let's get ready for a great 2021.
The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.